For my 28th birthday, my parents sent a text, "Too tired after cleaning up your sister's party." So I posted a family photo with a caption, "Guess which one they forgot existed?" Within 2 days, I was fielding texts and missed calls from relatives I hadn't heard from in months. My cousin Zoe shared it on Facebook. A family group chat one I'm not even in started buzzing. My mom called first, furious and brittle. "Mallory," she snapped, "what is this drama you're stirring up online?" I held the phone away from my face for a moment, like I could protect myself from the sheer audacity. "I posted a photo," I said. "And a caption that's true." My dad got on the line after that. "You're being unreasonable. You know we were just tired after everything with Fiona." "Yeah," I said. "I know. Tired enough to forget I exist." They didn't deny it. They just kept saying I was making a mountain out of a molehill. That they meant to make it up to me later. That I was being sensitive and dramatic. That it was just a text. But it wasn't just a text. It was years of being the afterthought. The one who blended into the background. The one who didn't cause trouble, so didn't get attention. Fiona? She got a party for graduating community college, a new car when she turned 21, and a custom birthday cake shaped like a damn purse this year. I got a text message and a vague promise to catch up soon. I didn't block them. I didn't scream or make threats. I just stopped answering. I gave myself space. I leaned into work. I went for longer walks after my shifts. I started spending weekends with friends from yoga and book club instead of wondering if my parents would ever remember to invite me to dinner. Then the envelope arrived. Cream-colored, elegant, and addressed in familiar handwriting, "Mallory Jensen and guest." Inside was an invitation to Fiona's engagement party. I hadn't even known she was engaged. The announcement had apparently gone up the same day as my birthday. I must have missed it between the rage and the numbness. The invite was for the country club in Cary, the same place Fiona had her sweet 16. The same place our parents renewed their vows on their 30th anniversary. I wasn't asked to help, to be involved, or even to bring anything. But I was invited. I stared at the card for a long time, trying to decide whether it was a peace offering or an obligation. In the end, I decided to go. Not for them. For me. I arrived 10 minutes late, wearing a burgundy wrap dress that I'd never had an excuse to wear before. I curled my hair and wore the gold earrings I'd bought for myself last Christmas, because no one else would have thought to. The party was what I expected: white tablecloths, string lights, champagne flutes. Fiona in a pale gold dress, surrounded by her friends and laughing like a movie star. Our parents flanked her on either side, glowing with pride. I stayed near the back, politely avoiding conversations until it was obvious I couldn't blend in anymore. "Oh, look who's here," Fiona said with a wide smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Didn't think we'd see you." "Nice to see you too," I said, sipping my drink. I spoke with a few distant cousins. Greeted an uncle who used to be close before his kids took over his world. My parents smiled and introduced me to some of their friends like I was an acquaintance from the office. "Mallory's our eldest," my mom said once. "She's in dental, right?" I just nodded. And then came the speeches. Fiona's fiancé gave a sweet, forgettable toast. Her friends talked about how she brought sunshine to every room. And then Uncle Reed raised his glass and said, "Fiona, you've always been the glue of this family. You make your parents proud every single day." I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. I slipped out before dessert. No one stopped me. No one asked where I went. Back home, I poured myself a glass of red wine, changed into sweatpants, and wrote Fiona a letter. A real letter. Handwritten. No sarcasm. No jabs. I told her the truth. That I wasn't angry anymore, just done. That I didn't want to fight, but I wasn't going to keep pretending I belonged somewhere I clearly didn't. That I wished her well. That I hoped she had the life she dreamed of. And I added one last thing: I'm moving to Asheville. I've accepted a job there. I hope things go well for you, Fiona. I really do. But this is goodbye for a while. I mailed the letter. Didn't expect a reply. Didn't want one, really. But a few weeks later, a card showed up in my new mailbox. No return address. My dad's handwriting inside. I don't know where things went wrong. But I'm sorry. I really am. I hope this movie brings you peace. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something close to peace. I didn't reply to my father's card. I read it twice, then tucked it into the drawer of my nightstand where I kept things I wasn't ready to look at but couldn't quite throw away. It wasn't a dramatic gesture. I just didn't know what to say. Maybe I still don't. The move to Asheville had been coming for a while. I'd been applying to new jobs in quiet spurts, after long, tiring days at the dental office or after weekends of scrolling through Fiona's photos, wondering when my life had turned into someone else's subplot. When the offer came in from a small but reputable family clinic just outside downtown Asheville, I accepted without telling anyone. Not even the few friends I had left in Chapel Hill. I think part of me needed to disappear before I could reappear. The first few weeks were quiet. I stayed in a rental, a modest craftsman bungalow on a street lined with oak trees and overgrown gardens. It had squeaky floorboards, a clawfoot tub, and windows that let in morning light like it was being poured out of a bucket. I bought second-hand furniture, started going to the Saturday farmers market, and made tentative small talk with the woman who ran the flower stall. My co-workers at the new clinic were kind in that slow, steady way that felt earned rather than performed. We didn't become fast friends, but they invited me to lunch sometimes. One of the hygienists, Daria, reminded me of a version of myself I used to like, older, sarcastic in a gentle way, with a grown son and a dog she called a roommate with opinions. It was through Daria that I ended up joining a weekend hiking group. Nothing intense, just a bunch of people in their 30s to 50s who liked to walk through the woods, eat granola bars, and talk about things like which bird had been spotted in Bent Creek that morning or whether composting was worth it. It felt like a life that belonged to me, instead of one I was renting from someone else's expectations. I didn't tell anyone about my family at first. When people asked if I had siblings, I just said a younger sister and changed the subject. I didn't want to explain. I didn't want the reactions. I didn't want to be pitted or, worse, given advice that boiled down to, maybe you should just talk to them. I had talked to them. For years. I'd spent so much time translating my needs into softer words, into palatable fragments that wouldn't offend anyone. I'd explained my hurt so gently that it stopped sounding like it hurt at all. And they still hadn't listened. That kind of rejection doesn't come all at once. It builds over time, in tiny, eroding increments, missed phone calls, forgotten milestones, compliments given only in comparison to someone else. Fiona was always the spirited one, the pretty one, the social butterfly. I was the reliable one. The one who didn't need anything. They believed me when I stopped needing them. That's the part that stings most. One Sunday in late April, I was planting herbs in the backyard when my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen and froze. It was Fiona. Not a text. A call. I hesitated. My hands were dirty, and I had dirt under my fingernails, but I answered anyway. Hello? There was a pause. Then her voice, sharp with forced cheer. Hey. So. I heard you moved. You heard right. Another pause. I didn't get your letter until after the party, she said. Mom had it in a drawer. I guess she was deciding whether or not to show it to me. Of course she was. I didn't expect a response, I said flatly. Well, Fiona said, you got one anyway. It was quiet for a moment, except for the faint sound of birdsong on my end. You really think we all just forgot you existed? I didn't say you forgot, I replied. I said you acted like I didn't matter. She didn't argue. That surprised me more than anything. I didn't mean to leave you out, she said finally. I didn't think about it. I guess. I just thought you were doing fine. I was doing what I always do, I said. Getting by. The call didn't last long. She didn't apologize, not really. She didn't admit fault or promise to do better. But for the first time in a long time, she didn't dismiss what I said. She didn't roll her eyes or accuse me of being dramatic. She just listened. I'd spent so long asking for scraps that even that felt like something. The next few weeks passed like slow-moving clouds, nothing dramatic, just steady days. I'd walk into work with a coffee, spend my hours cleaning teeth and making small talk, then come home to water the garden and sit on the porch as the sun went down. I started reading again, actual books, not just articles or posts or texts. I'd forgotten how much I used to love that. Occasionally, I'd get texts from my mom. Short, stiff ones. Hope you're settling in well. Let us know if you need anything. Your dad says hi. They weren't warm, but they were more than nothing. I didn't reply at first. Then I sent a photo of the herb garden. No words, just rosemary and basil, growing like they were finally somewhere they belonged. Fiona texted too. Less often. Always casual. Saw this art thing in Asheville. You should go. This place has coffee that tastes like yours. Remember when you used to make cookies with those weird lavender sprigs? I never knew if she was trying to apologize or if she just missed having someone who remembered her before she became the family's centerpiece. The strangest part was how quiet the hurt had become. It didn't jab the way it used to. It had settled into something duller, heavier. Like a book I carried in my bag every day but didn't open anymore. I didn't know where we were headed. If there was going to be a reconciliation or just a cautious truce. But I knew one thing, for the first time I wasn't waiting to be chosen. I had already chosen myself. About 2 months into my new life in Asheville, things started to settle in that subtle way only time and distance allow. There were no grand breakthroughs. No emotional reunions. Just small, ordinary days that started to feel like they belonged to me. The silence from my parents stretched on, marked only by the occasional, cautious text from my mother or Fiona. They were short, surface level, and clearly designed not to step on any landmines. I didn't resent it, but I didn't reach back either. I let the distance breathe. Then, one Sunday afternoon, I got a text from my mom that stopped me mid-laundry. Are you free to talk today? Just for a few minutes. No pressure. I sat on the edge of my bed, looking at the message. For a long time, I didn't move. Eventually, I typed, okay. Call after 5. When she called, her voice sounded different. Softer, maybe. Or just more hesitant. Hi, sweetheart, she said. I didn't know if I still liked being called that. Hey. There was a pause. I could hear something in the background, maybe the ceiling fan from the living room, or the ticking of the old kitchen clock. I won't keep you long, she began. I just wanted to say. I know we've hurt you. And I think I've been trying to avoid sitting with that. Because it's easier to be defensive than to be ashamed. I blinked, stunned. She kept going, slower this time. I read your letter to Fiona. I read it a few times. And I realized. I don't really know you anymore. I mean, I know the version of you from when you were home. The quiet one. The one who never needed anything. I stopped asking, I said softly. I know, she replied. And that's on me. On us. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She didn't try to tie it up neatly. She didn't mention Fiona's party or my birthday or even the Instagram post. And maybe that was why I didn't hang up. Because for once, she wasn't trying to change the subject or shift the blame. She was just there. With shame. Naming it. I didn't say much after that. I told her I was fine, that work was good, that the house I was renting had the sweetest view of the Blue Ridge sunsets. She said she'd love to see it sometime. Maybe, I said. That was all I could give. After we hung up, I didn't cry. I didn't call a friend. I didn't post a cryptic story or replay the conversation over and over again. I just sat in the stillness, staring out at the small rectangle of the backyard through my kitchen window. And for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel invisible. Not entirely. Work continued to be a grounding force. Daria invited me to a small potluck at her house, just a few coworkers and their spouses, nothing big. I almost didn't go. But I baked a lemon loaf, put on jeans that actually fit, and showed up. That night was easy. People laughed about dumb work stuff. A guy named Russell from reception brought his rescue beagle, who tried to eat everything off every plate. We drank boxed wine and told stories about bad bosses and worse landlords. No one asked about my family. No one even knew I had drama in my background. I liked it that way. Russell and I started chatting more after that. Not in a flirty way, not at first. Just a quiet, familiar kind of back and forth. He had this warmth about him, the kind that didn't ask for anything but still made you feel safe. We met up a couple of times for coffee. Then a walk. Then lunch. He never pressed for details when I deflected personal stuff, but I caught him looking at me sometimes like he saw the ghosts I was still dragging around, even if I hadn't introduced them. One day, we sat by the French Broad River, the late afternoon sun reflecting off the water, and I told him about my birthday. About Fiona's party. About the caption. About the text. He didn't say much. Just nodded. Then he said something that stuck with me. Some families give you a role early on. And they expect you to stay in it, even when you've outgrown it. It was simple. But it hit me like the truth. I didn't respond right away. I didn't have to. By early summer, the weather turned warm enough that I started leaving my windows open again. The breeze carried the scent of honeysuckle, and sometimes I'd just sit on the porch with a glass of iced tea and listen to the cicadas. One evening, just as the sky was starting to pinken, I got a group text from Fiona. It was the first one she'd ever sent that included only me and her. Hey, thinking of coming up to Asheville next weekend. Just me. No parents. Would you want to grab a coffee or something? I stared at it. I wasn't sure if I wanted to see her. I didn't know what I'd say. Or if I even trusted that it wasn't some kind of guilt-driven stunt. But I also knew this was the first olive branch she'd extended without anyone else pulling the strings. After a few minutes, I typed, okay. Coffee's fine. I didn't tell anyone. Not Daria. Not Russell. Not even the group from the hiking club. I needed to know how it would feel on my own terms. She showed up on a Saturday morning, wearing jeans and a wrinkled t-shirt, no makeup, hair tied back in a messy ponytail. She looked like a sister, not the curated social media version, but the person I used to share a bathroom with. The one I used to fight with over cereal and whose hand I used to hold during thunderstorms. We went to a little cafe near my place, one of those places with mismatched mugs and chairs that don't quite match the table. It smelled like cinnamon and ground espresso. I ordered a lavender latte. She got a black coffee and didn't complain about it being too bitter, which shocked me more than anything. For the first 10 minutes, we talked about nothing. The drive. The weather. The blueberry muffins. Then she said, I've been reading a lot of old journals. That caught me off guard. From when? I asked. High school. College. Stuff I wrote after you moved out. I kept saying how I felt like you didn't want to be part of the family anymore. But reading it now, I can see how much I missed. I didn't know what to say. I looked down at my coffee, at the little foam heart the barista had drawn, now starting to dissolve. I think I made it about me, Fiona continued. Like, your distance had to mean something about me. Like you were mad or jealous or trying to punish us. But I think maybe you were just surviving. I nodded slowly. That's all I ever was doing. I'm sorry, she said, and this time it sounded like the kind of sorry you say when you're finally ready to mean it. Not performative. Not transactional. Just honest. I didn't forgive her, not fully, not instantly. But I felt something shift. Not a door opening, but maybe a window cracking enough to let the air in. After Fiona left that weekend, I didn't hear from her again for a little while. But the meeting had done something. It put the past in the room with us, sat it between us like a third chair at the cafe, and for the first time, neither of us ignored it. We didn't pretend nothing had happened. We didn't try to sweep the years under the rug. We just sat with it. And after that, I started breathing easier. A few weeks later, she texted me a photo of a wedding dress. Then another one of the reception venues she was touring. Then, a question: would you want to help with the wedding playlist? I actually laughed. Out loud. Not because it was absurd though, okay, it was, but because I could finally see her for who she was, not just my sister, not just the golden girl, but a person who'd grown up believing her shine was her safety net. That being loved loudly meant being loved right. She didn't know how to offer anything small. Only big, sweeping gestures. Because that's how she'd been taught affection was measured. So I responded, simply, sure. I'll send a few songs. I gave her 3, one we used to dance to in our room as kids, one that reminded me of our mom before things changed, and one that I secretly knew would make her cry at the rehearsal dinner. Small revenge, maybe. But I had bigger things in mind. As the wedding planning accelerated, Fiona kept trying to bring me closer into the fold. And I let her. Slowly. Deliberately. I helped with the playlist, offered ideas for favors, and even helped her choose a local bakery for a secondary dessert table, one with lavender cookies just like the ones I used to make when no one cared enough to eat them. Then came the rehearsal dinner. It was at the same country club as always. The same white tablecloths. The same floral centerpieces. Only this time I arrived early. I'd spent months preparing, not for a takedown, but for clarity. For a chance to put the narrative back in my hands. I was asked to give a speech, since I was the maid of honor in spirit. Fiona had wanted to include me but knew the family would ask questions. So we kept it informal. No spotlight. No stage. Just a microphone. And a story. I stood up when it was my turn. The lights were soft. Everyone had been drinking. My parents were 3 seats away, buzzed on wine and comfortable in the illusion of healed bonds. I took a breath, smiled, and said, when Fiona and I were kids, our favorite game was to play hide and seek in the house. I always hid too well. She'd give up in minutes and yell from the living room, "Come out. You win." But sometimes, I stayed hidden just a little longer. Just to see how long it would take for someone to come find me. Some people laughed. I paused. That became a bit of a pattern, honestly. I got very good at staying quiet, staying small, staying out of the way. I think it made things easier for everyone else. But not for me. It was silent now. My mother's wineglass froze midair. This isn't a sad story. I promise. Because the best part is, when you stay hidden long enough, you start to see things from behind the curtains. You realize who notices your absence, and who doesn't. And eventually, you stop waiting for people to come find you. You walk out on your own. Still no one moved. So here I am. Out in the open. And happy to say that I've never felt more seen than I do now, in a life I built myself, with people who didn't forget I exist. And to my sister, thank you. Not just for the invite, but for finally looking. Really looking. There was a moment of held breath. Then a wave of applause. Fiona's eyes were glassy. My mother looked stunned. Like the truth had been spoken in a language she didn't know how to respond to. My father couldn't meet my eyes. And I sat back down with the most genuine smile I'd worn in years. The wedding itself was beautiful. The kind of beauty that photographs well but feels oddly distant in real time. I stayed on the edge of things, just close enough to be present but not enough to be pulled back into the family orbit. Fiona looked radiant. Her fiancé, whom I'd grown to like, had that look of genuine joy. The ceremony was touching. The speeches? Forgettable. But the playlist? It opened with a song only she and I would understand. A subtle reminder. She glanced at me across the room when it started, and I gave her a quiet nod. The real revenge wasn't the speech. Or the songs. Or even the fact that every cousin and aunt cornered me afterwards saying, "I had no idea, Mallory." It was that I no longer needed anything from them. I didn't need their attention. Their guilt. Their late-in-life apologies. I had built a whole life without them, and that was the part no one could take back. That was my freedom. But I wasn't done. 3 months later, Fiona texted again. "Mom and Dad were asking if you'd come for Thanksgiving. Just us. No extended family. They want to try." I said I'd think about it. And I did. Then, I politely declined. Instead, I invited Russell, Daria, and a few new friends from my hiking group over to my place for a misfit holiday with potluck dishes, mismatched chairs, and a roaring fire. I made lavender cookies. And when I posted a photo of us all laughing around the table, I captioned it, "Turns out, family isn't who remembers your birthday. It's who shows up to celebrate your life." I never heard back from my mom about it. But Fiona liked the post. And that was enough.